Because remember, your wife is going to be in this birth brain, this labor land. And so when decisions are being made, you are going to be a major player in that decision-making process because you are going to be filtering the information that she is getting. You being educated on all of the options is going to allow you to have educated and informed conversations with your provider. And then in addition to that, you knowing what your wife's preferences are is going to allow you to be able to advocate for her in those situations and those scenarios so that you can leave her alone. People aren't peppering her with questions and she can continue to labor while you are doing the advocacy on her behalf. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Birth Lounge podcast. How'd you guys like that new intro? We have been working on that for weeks and I'm so excited to finally be able to share it with you. I had a select few people listen to it and they said that they loved it. They said they loved the baby crying. It brought tears to their eyes. You could hear the story of the ultrasound, being in pregnancy, and then walking that path through your pregnancy, being empowered, having that uplifting music, and then hearing your baby cry for the first time. Oh my gosh, and that crescendo, it just gets me every time. It's like your entrance into motherhood. I love it. I love it so much. I hope you love it just as much as I do. All right, in today's episode, we're going to be going over my top 8 tips to get your partner ready for birth. We know that the data says that having an educated and prepared partner in the delivery room with you is not just about emotional and physical support. It actually improves the birth outcomes for not only you, but also your baby. People who have prepared partners that have done the work alongside them, they have less need for medical interventions, and this means reducing your likelihood of a C-section by up to 25%. That's huge when you consider the fact that you're giving birth in a country that 1 in 3 women are going to go into labor and then walk out with a major abdominal surgery. You also experience shorter labors, less painful labors, and you just have an overall better birth experience when your partner is educated and informed and ready to advocate for you. So today in this episode, it is for you, but I highly encourage you to hit that share button, send it to your partner, and encourage them to listen because I'm going to be breaking down the top tips that after this episode, they will be ready to support you in the birth room. For all the dads that are joining us, hi, welcome. I'm HeHe. I'm a doula. I have been helping your wife prepare for birth over the last couple weeks and months, and I'm so glad that you're here because today's episode is actually for you. I'm going to be talking to you all about the things that you need to know to be a stellar support person in the birth room to help you guys have a positive birth. So let's dive right in. Now, these are in a particular order. I have done them intentionally, but they are not in an order that is from, like, let's say least to best or, least important to most important. They're intentional in the way that I want you to think about the information because it's going to build on one another and it's going to help really map out how you can be that best support person in the labor room. However, the support doesn't just start on the day of the birth. It starts now. So take the time that is remaining in the pregnancy for you two to be working together to put together a stellar plan so that you can have your best birth possible. Okay, number 1. I know this is so hard for a lot of people, and it's why I want to start here because, in my opinion, this is where you need to spend the most time because it is going to take the most practice. It takes the most skill. And for a lot of us, it is where we are most uncomfortable in medical spaces, and that is advocacy. So, in labor, your wife, the mom, the laboring person, is going to enter what we call labor land or birth brain. It is a very reptilian, very natural, very animalistic place. And this is normal. It's very expected. This is kind of what we think labor is going to include. It's a natural part of labor. And the reason being is labor is a very, very internal process. It's a very delicate dance between that mom and that baby. And so your job is to make sure that everything around her is not interfering with that process, that we're really honoring that space and allowing her to go within and be in that birth brain, that labor land. And so for you as the dad, your job is going to be to advocate not only for her wishes and her preferences, but also for people to leave her alone. All questions and everything should be filtered through you, and you should be making sure that informed consent is done at every single step. And this means not letting people touch her without asking if that's okay. Don't let people do things to her. Cervical checks, blood pressure checks, getting her out of the bed, making her get into certain positions, primarily on her back, without asking, A, is that okay with her? And B, getting her permission. Your job is to keep her informed and in control of that birth space 100% of the time. And that means that you're going to have to be comfortable speaking up. If this is something that you're not comfortable with, that's why I want you to start working on it now. You need to take the time to start getting comfortable to advocate for your wife in labor so that when you get into the labor room and someone just goes to touch her or just goes to put her body in a different position, you feel comfortable saying, hey, just 1 second, let her get through this contraction, and then we can ask her if she's okay getting out of hands and knees and onto her back. It also means centering her decisions. So this is why it's so important that you guys are having conversations before labor happens, before you're actually in labor, so that you know what her preferences are. Maybe she has a preference to not be on her back at all. And so instead of saying, hey, let's wait for this contraction to end and then we can ask her, you can just say, hey, you know what? She doesn't want to be on her back. I know this. I know she does not want to be on her back. It's something that's very important to her. So what can I help you do to get your job done? I see that you're trying to get the belly bands on. How can I help you accomplish that without putting her in a position that she's made it very clear she does not want to get in? Along with this, your job is to listen to her. So if you ask her a question, or if a medical staff person asks a question of her and she says no, your job is to make sure that that no is respected and listened to. So you're really being this filter where you don't allow people in that room to pressure her into decisions, which we know can often happen in the hospital system. They have an agenda. They have check boxes that they need to mark off. They have a list of to-dos, and their job, they are trained to get those tasks done at all costs. And a lot of times this looks like, or it can look like, pressuring people into decisions that they don't want to make because the hospital system wants them to make that decision. And unfortunately, what the data shows about birth trauma is that the majority of birth trauma actually comes from that interaction right there, from not being listened to and being forced into decisions that you either declined and that wasn't respected, or you were pressured into something and you didn't know how to say no. And so your job as being a stellar support person is going to be to know how to have those conversations, know what her preferences are, and know how to stop her from being pressured into decision. And this is all wrapped up into that advocacy. And you can see now why it takes a little bit of time for you to learn the skills and exactly how to do that. Okay, number 2 is, I think, probably something that all of us know, and it's probably what you think your role is, and it's just a small piece of your role, but that's the emotional support and the encouragement. And this can look like a wide variety of things. Again, having these conversations before you're in labor can be super, super helpful. But you know what I always tell my one-to-one clients is nobody knows the hospital system and the labor process like I do, but nobody knows your partner, your wife, like you do. And that's why when you hire a doula, we are such a perfect team because I know the labor process. I know the hospital process. I know the hospital policies. I know what you can expect. I know the positions. I know the pain relief, but you know your wife. And so I will have these tools in my toolbox and I'll teach them to you, but you will know which ones best fit your wife and your partner. Now, the emotional part is going to be, again, just kind of what floats their boat. So think about over the years that you've been together, what makes your partner feel emotionally safe? Is it telling them you're safe? Is it telling them I'm right here with you? Maybe it's silent support and you just need to be in the room with them, just holding space, present, right beside them, but you don't necessarily need to talk. Maybe it is physical support and you are holding their hand, or you're patting their back, or you are massaging their shoulders or their head. It could also be a combination of those things. Maybe she is sitting on a birth ball and you're in a chair beside her. Your legs are kind of spread open and her back is leaned up against you. Can you picture that? And you are massaging her shoulders and you're whispering in her ear very gently, "You're doing a great job. I love you and you're safe." This emotional support and encouragement is not going to be something that you often find in the hospital. And so it's going to rely solely on you. Now, inside of the Dad Days course, that's DADDAZE, I have included some phrases that are really, really helpful for dads to use in the birth room. So if you're a member of the Dad Days or you're a member of the Birth Lounge and then you have access to the Dad Days course, go in there and grab that PDF and you can screenshot it on your phone. You can print it out and put it in your birth bag. And that way you have some phrases that you know will not only be encouraging, but will also be so supportive of her in the times that she needs it during labor. Number 3, and I hinted a little bit at it in number 2, but number 3 is pain relief methods. So that's going to go beyond just patting her back and massaging her shoulders and holding her hands. We're talking about things like hip squeezes and shaking the apples and side-lying releases and sacrum presses. If these are all very foreign terms to you, I highly, highly recommend you check out the Birth Lounge. It's a childbirth education course that is specifically designed to put you in control of your birth decision so that you can avoid birth trauma. There's so many childbirth education classes out there that teach you your options, but what they fail to teach you is how do you actually use those within the hospital system when you're facing that pushback or that resistance or that pressure that we just previously talked about. It can feel really hard. You know all the things that you can do, but if your hospital staff is telling you you can't do them, then you kind of find yourself stuck in a catch-22, but not with the Birth Lounge. I'm teaching you not only what your options are and what you can do, but then how do you get around hospital policy when someone is telling you you can't do this? How do you respond to that? How do you have those conversations to say, I hear your policy, but I know my rights as well? And that's what I teach you in the Birth Lounge. Knowing pain relief methods is probably one of the best things that you can do in the birth room to be a stellar support person, especially if your wife has goals of having an unmedicated birth or they feel very strongly about putting off the epidural until later in labor, which many, many women do. Being able to cope with the pains and the sensations of contractions is essential to being able to labor and to being able to put off that epidural. If you have goals of laboring at home, which again, many families do, these pain relief coping strategies are going to be crucial for you because in that time, it's just going to be the two of you, and you're just going to be at home with the tools that you have at home. Now, inside the birth lounge, I talk about things like ice packs and heating packs and rice socks, having things like a TENS unit and tennis balls on hand so that you can help employ these pain relief methods for your wife while she's in labor. Other things that you consider: a birth ball, getting cozy on the couch, using hydrotherapy, so the shower or the tub, and then obviously massage and pressure points can be super, super valuable in labor as well. In addition to knowing non-pharmacological options, it's really important for you to know the pros and cons of the medication as well, like medicinal pain relief options that they're going to offer you in the hospital. Because remember, your wife is going to be in this birth brain, this labor land. And so when decisions are being made, you are going to be a major player in that decision-making process because you are going to be filtering the information that she is getting. These conversations are likely going to be done with you, and then you will take that chunk of information that you just talked about with your doctor and your nurse, and you will spit it out to your wife in a very short, brief type of delivery because you have just, a minute or two in between contractions to get your message across to help her understand where you are in the process in labor and what her options are. You being educated on all of the options is going to allow you to have educated and informed conversations with your provider. And then in addition to that, you knowing what your wife's preferences are is going to allow you to be able to advocate for her in those situations and those scenarios so that you can leave her alone. People aren't peppering her with questions, and she can continue to labor while you are doing the advocacy on her behalf. Now, number 4 tags right along to number 3, and this is breathing techniques. Yet again, another thing that I teach you inside the Birth Lounge, my childbirth education course that is designed to help you avoid birth trauma. And one of those things that we can do is helping your wife understand how to properly breathe in labor. Now, one thing I want to be clear here is that there is no right or wrong way to breathe in labor, but there are breathing techniques that will be better for some people than others, and there will be breathing techniques that will help progress your labor better than others. For example, long, deep, low, and slow breaths help oxygenate your baby. They help keep your nervous system regulated, and they help keep you really well oxygenated as well. Your uterus is a muscle, so if you are breathing shallow and really fast, almost hyperventilating, then not only is that oxygen not reaching your baby, but it's also not reaching your uterus, which is going to result in less efficient contractions and probably a more painful labor. So obviously we want to avoid that. You have other options that I talk about in the Birth Lounge too, like horse lips and the windmill, which is, pretending that you are blowing a pinwheel. So you are taking a short breath, a quick breath in, and then a long breath out. There's box breathing. There's so many ways that you can learn to regulate your nervous system and your breathing in labor. And we talk about all those in the Birth Lounge, but your breathing techniques are going to be one of the best ways to keep you comfortable in labor. Now, as the partner, it's super important for you to not only know what these are, but know how to facilitate them. If you notice that your wife is starting to breathe really fast and shallow and starting to do that hyperventilation type breathing, you're going to want to know how to reel her back and say, hey, deep breaths in. Take a deep breath in and out. Ooh. And modeling for her is going to be so powerful. Remember, she's in that really primal state. And so thinking logistically can be really hard. And so if you know what breathing techniques are available, you know how to model those for her, that can be super powerful in helping her step back from a ledge and get her back on track in labor. Okay, y'all, we've been doing a lot of talking about creating a sanctuary in your birth space, but I want to talk to you about creating a sanctuary at your home, and that starts with making your bedroom a refuge for comfort. Let me tell you the products that I have been loving. Number 1, my Cozy Earth pajamas, and number 2, their bamboo sheet set. They are luxuriously soft and temperature regulating and will absolutely transform your nights. Sleep in pregnancy can be so hard with the insomnia and the constantly waking up to pee. And while I can't take those away, I can make your nights 1,000 times comfier with the softest PJs that are lightweight and breathable. I have 3 different pair. I have the long pants and I have the short sets. That's going to be extra important in postpartum too once those night sweats hit. You deserve to have a sleep environment that restores, refreshes, and revitalizes you in all stages of pregnancy and motherhood, so you can fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer, especially since sleep is so sparse these days. The best part is you can try them risk-free for 100 nights with their sleep trial, and they come with a 10-year warranty. When you are well rested, you can show up for your baby and your family more present and joyful, so prioritize your sleep. Visit CozyEarth.com and use my exclusive code HeHe, that's HeHe, for 40% off. That's right, 40% off. Sheets, pajamas, loungewear, towels, washcloths, and so much more. Visit CozyEarth.com and use my code HeHe to save yourself 40% off so you can prioritize your sleep. All right, let's get back to it. Number 5, be a gatekeeper. Now, one of your jobs is being what I like to describe as the bouncer of the energy, the protector of the space. And this includes documenting important things and times. I recommend keeping a running notes on your phone so that you can keep timestamps of things that happen, when cervical exams happen, when certain procedures were suggested to you and what your decision was, when medications such as Pitocin, Cytotec, Cervidil were started, when you decided to start pushing, how long that was, how long you decided to nap, when you got in the shower. Not only is it great to have your own documentation of things, but it's also just really fun to look over that in postpartum, because remember, your wife is going to have a skewed view of the timing of things. She's going to be in that birth brain, that labor land, and things are going to feel like a vortex. Really, time doesn't exist in the birth room. And I know that you're not going to know what that means until you get in there, but once you're on the other side, you're going to look back and be like, oh my God, HeHe, you were so right. Time does not exist in the birth room, and it is just so true. 20 minutes can feel like 4 hours in some scenarios, and then sometimes you look down and you're like, it's been 30 minutes, and you look at your watch and you're like, oh my God, it has been 6.5 hours. Time does not exist. It just doesn't follow the normal rules that we are used to, and so you being a gatekeeper of things that happen to and around and in that space is so helpful. Another thing about being the gatekeeper of that space is being that filter on who does and does not have access to not only the room, that birth space, but to your wife. So we mentioned this previously in another one, but really be that filter. When someone comes in and they have questions, get up and move to them. Put some physical space between them and your your wife. Intersect them, stop them, and say, can I help you? Can I answer your questions? Now, some things you may not know and some things you may not be able to answer, such as, is she okay with a cervical exam? The only one that's going to be able to answer that is going to be your wife. But if you know that she has told you she absolutely does not want any cervical exams, she will ask for them when and if she is ready, then you do know the answer. You know that when they come in to offer a routine cervical exam, you know the answer is no, because she has neither requested it nor has she indicated that she was ready for a cervical exam the next time the doctor came around. The hospital system is working off of task-based lists, and so their idea of disrupting the birth space and that birth energy is going to be very, very different than the idea that you and your wife have. You guys are going to want to make this space a sanctuary. You're going to want to make it calm and solemn and grounded, and unfortunately, the hospital system just doesn't work like that. And so people are likely to be in and out of your room. As the gatekeeper, you can put some boundaries around this. Only essential personnel. You can ask that people like the food and catering staff and that the custodial staff stay out of your room unless absolutely necessary, which it's really not. It's not going to ever be necessary. If they have a food delivery, they can leave it right outside of the door and your nurse can bring it into you. And then if your trash can needs to be changed, if you don't want custodians to come in and do that, you can gather up the trash bag, tie it off like you would the trash bag in your home, and then put it right outside of the door for them to pick it up. A lot of people don't realize that you have total control on who enters your room, who you give permission and consent to be in that space, but you absolutely do. And that is one of your jobs as the gatekeeper of this space, is to make sure that this space remains not only safe and grounded and calm, but it only includes the people that you and your wife trust and have allowed into this space. All right, number 6, offer water and snacks. Now, understand, she may not be hungry, but water and hydration are key. So even if she says no, encouraging her to just take at least one sip, she doesn't have to take a huge gulp, but just one sip every 2 or 3 contractions is going to be key. Again, we talked about that uterus being a muscle and it needs to be properly nourished and hydrated to be able to have efficient contractions, to be able to progress labor. If your wife is dehydrated, she's more likely to have inefficient contractions, more painful labor, and possibly need IV fluid, which has a whole slew of things attached to that. I talk about that more in the birth lounge. It can cause things like inflated birth weight, swelling in your wife, and other interventions that you guys may not be comfortable with. Join the birth lounge, the membership designed to help you avoid birth trauma, if you want to learn more about IV fluid pros and cons. As far as snacks go, I'm sure that she will have snacks that she loves and wants to pack. But when it comes to you offering snacks, think about things that can be quickly consumed between contractions. Things like a bite of applesauce, those little quick packs, those pouches that have the twist off tops. You can hold it out to her in between a contraction. She can take a sip of that, swallow it quickly, and then be ready for the next contraction. A granola bar, dried fruit, anything that you can hold out. Try to avoid snacks that you have to either use utensils for. So again, the applesauce in a cup that you need to use a spoon for, not going to be super birth friendly. Trail mix that you have to dig your hands in. Just keep in mind that you are in the hospital and there are infection risks being in the hospital. So the least amount that we can touch the food, the better. And one other tip, know that all hospital L&D units are going to have a small kitchen that you can access to get other things other than water, coconut water, cranberry juice, orange juice, sodas if that's something that she is craving. However, I wouldn't recommend a soda in labor, but sometimes we find people need a little bit of a sugar boost. Ginger ale is also really awesome if you are having nausea nausea. So if you find that your wife is really over the water and she's kind of feeling resistant to taking more sips, offer her something that might be a little bit more appealing and ask your nurse where you can get some juice. All right, these last two may be my absolute favorite because it really comes down to you being a stellar support person and digging into your relationship and just how much you love your wife. Number 7 is be a cheerleader and an advocate. Now, we talked about that advocacy in number 1, and I'm going to circle back to this because it is the most important. She is not going to be able to advocate for herself in labor. She is busy birthing your child, and so you need to be that advocate. You're gonna have to be the one that says, no, we don't want this, or hey, could we please request this? It is really important that you continue to remind her that she absolutely can do this. She is safe. She is beautiful. She is strong. You can ask for things that you know that she wants. Could we get a peanut ball in here? Is there any way to have her water bottle filled up? Would you mind doing it, or could you point me to the direction that I could do it? Speak up for the things that you know she doesn't want. Circling back to the cervical exams, when someone comes in and they say it's time for a cervical exam, you can say she doesn't want that. Not only has she expressed that multiple times, but it's also written on our birth plan. We feel very confident and secure and informed about this decision. And if and when she's ready for a cervical exam, she will ask for it and we will come and find you. It is so important. Remember, the people who have an educated and informed partner have better birth outcomes. Moms and babies fare better when you, dad, are informed and confident about the things in your birth space. So be that cheerleader, be that stellar support, and be that advocate. All right, you guys, ready for the last one? And I have to be honest, it's not unbiased. It is really biased because I am who I am. And number 8 is hire a doula. And I want to tell you honestly why having a doula will make you a better support person. A doula often is looked upon as someone that is just there to support the mom. And that honestly could not be further from the truth. You and your doula are going to have a partnership in supporting your wife in labor. It's a partnership and not a replacement. Remember what I said earlier where no one knows the hospital system and the birth process like I do, but no one knows your partner, your wife, the mother of your child like you do? Those two things can never be enmeshed. They can never be replaced. They are two separate roles. They will never be one. We need both A and B to provide your wife with an amazing birth experience. Your doula is there to support your wife, no doubt, but they're absolutely there to support you too. They are going to be there with those gentle reminders of, hey, give her a sip of water. It's been a minute since she's taken a sip. Or, hey, do you think that she would really like to get in the bath at this point? Or, hey, it looks like the doctor is here to give a cervical exam. Do you want to go talk to him and decline that for her? You may also find that your doula helps you feel more secure. She may suggest things like taking a walk or going to get food for yourself so that you can continue to be 100% present with your wife and you're not famished. A doula is there to literally lessen the mental load on you during this process. In the really intense times of labor, a doula is going to be so fantastic for you because you can just simply look over at your doula and by simple eye contact, they will be able to let you know if everything is all right or if the anxiety that you're feeling is warranted. Not only that, but they're going to be able to provide you with support. They'll be able to remind you, hey, this is really intense, but it's totally normal for this stage of labor. Hey, I know she's being really loud and that may feel a little uncomfortable for you, but this is totally expected at 8 centimeters dilated. It looks like we're going to meet your baby soon. Having someone that has walked through the birth process before you hundreds of times is going to provide you with comfort, because as informed and confident and as educated as you can be, this is still your first time doing it. And if it's not your first time, let me tell you this. No births are the same. And so even if you've done this before, this birth is going to be different than any previous birth that you've ever been to. And so having a doula there that is comfortable in this space, that knows the birth process, that is educated and informed, that's comfortable supporting not only your wife, but you as well, is going to be so beneficial for everybody involved. I have met thousands of dads who were resistant in the beginning to hiring a doula because probably, maybe like you, they felt like, I don't want to be replaced, or they were unsure if they wanted to have a quote unquote stranger in their birth space. But you know, someone I've never met is a dad on the other side that said, darn, I wish we hadn't hired that doula. Every single dad I have ever supported and ever encountered in the birth space has said, this was so beneficial and I had absolutely no idea how much I needed this. And so I think that if hiring a doula is on you guys' mind and you've been thinking about it, I really encourage you to explore that option to see if it could be right for you and your wife. All right, you guys, that kind of wraps everything up. Those are my top 8 tips to helping you be a stellar support person in the birth room. And I know this feels like a lot, because it is a lot. You are taking on the role of the guardian, the protector. You are her number one cheerleader. This is one of the most important days of you and your partner's life. Your partner, your wife, your fiance, your girlfriend, whoever it is, whoever you're supporting is going to be experiencing so much, and she needs your support. So put on your hero cape and get in there. Show up for her like she shows up for you, and just like she deserves. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Be sure to follow along on social media. You can find me at Tranquility by HeHe and the.birth.lounge. If you want to join Dad Days or the Birth Lounge, head to thebirthlounge.com and you can find all of our courses and support material there. Until next time, head to your app store and download the Birth Lounge app for evidence-based childbirth education and data-driven postpartum support delivered straight to your phone. Bye! Thank you so much for tuning in today. I love hanging out with you, and it is an honor to be your go-to gal when it comes to preparing for your baby. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and tell others why they should be listening to the Birth Lounge podcast too. You deserve to have a birth that you love with a provider that values your autonomy and respects informed consent without all the trauma that you so commonly hear about on social media. New episodes air every Wednesday and Friday. Hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. I'm HeHe, and this is the Birth Lounge Podcast.